This morning, Jimmy Kimmel off the air. ABC announced it's suspending his long-running late-night show indefinitely.
I'm very glad to see that America's broadcasters are standing up to serve the interests of their community.
Who murdered Charlie Kirk is anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Same time online, they announced that it was indefinitely, which we can probably assume is forever.
They didn't change a segment. They didn't issue a light reprimand. A BC pulled Jimmy Kimmel live off the air, indefinitely. 1 week, it was punchlines and applause. The next, a vacuum where a nightly institution used to be. It happened fast, and it happened publicly, after a monologue that crossed political tripwires in the emotional aftermath of Charlie Kirk's killing. What started as a late-night riff turned into a national pressure test of networks, of regulators, and of how far a joke can go before the people who control the signal say, "Not tonight." Kimmel's words were the spark. His critics say he implied something ugly about the suspect's politics. His defenders say he was calling out opportunism in the way factions rushed to frame a tragedy. 2 sentences from one monologue were lifted, clipped, and replayed everywhere, on TV, on timelines, in corners of the internet that trade outrage like currency. In that fog, the exact phrasing almost mattered less than the feeling it produced, that a comedian had stepped into a fight that would not end when the cameras turned off. But the audience that mattered first wasn't the studio crowd or the trending tab. It was a handful of companies with the power to flip a switch in dozens of cities at once. Nexstar, a giant in local TV, told ABC it would preempt the show on its ABC affiliates, indefinitely. In TV math, that's a body blow. If 24+ markets go dark, the brand doesn't limp, it buckles. Stations worry about calls from viewers, pressure from community leaders, and nervous ad buyers. A network might weather a Twitter storm, it won't shrug off a map of key markets suddenly refusing to carry a show at 11:35 p.m. That's how an internal debate becomes an immediate decision. Then another voice weighed in. Loud, official, and impossible for executives to ignore. FCC Chair Brendan Carr publicly condemned Kimmel's remarks and urged action, framing it as a question of public interest and broadcaster responsibility. The FCC doesn't write jokes or greenlight guests, but when a regulator signals, broadcasters listen. Supporters called it accountability. Critics called it pressure, pointing out that the First Amendment limits government action, not a private network's programming, but government rhetoric can still chill speech without a single fine being issued. That's the line everyone started arguing about. When does opinion from a government official shade into a threat that changes a corporation's risk calculus? Cable news threw gasoline on the timeline. CNN anchors parsed what was said, who reacted, and how affiliates' revolt forced ABC's hand. Commentators debated whether this was standards or surrender, decency, or a political victory lap. By day's end, preempted indefinitely wasn't a rumor. It was a line in a network statement, screenshotted and shared until even casual viewers knew the punchline had been benched. When national news narrates your process in real time, executives move from monitoring to making a call fast. From there, the politics were inevitable. A former president cheered the move, feeding a narrative that elitist late night finally faced consequences. His allies said this was accountability long overdue. Kimmel's supporters called it a dangerous precedent that rewards outrage and punishes commentary. Whether you saw justice or censorship often depended on which team you were already on. That's the smartest part of the play for partisans. Turn a programmer's decision into your side's moral victory. It reframes scheduling as a culture war scoreboard. But step back from the noise, and the decision looks brutally practical. Affiliates hold the keys to the kingdom. They're the ones with FCC licenses, community relationships, and local advertisers to answer to. When affiliates balk, ad demand softens. When ad demand softens, finance gets loud. Meanwhile, legal voices remind everyone that constitutional law doesn't prevent a network from suspending a show it believes is damaging the brand. even as free speech advocates warn that government jawboning can still warp the marketplace of ideas. Welcome to the modern media triangle, the regulator with a microphone, the affiliate with a transmitter, and the network trying to protect a primetime slate. Kimmel's comments land in the rawest kind of moment, a killing that immediately became a battlefield of narratives. Before facts stabilized, entire storylines crystallized online competing claims about motive, ideology, and blame. Foreign outlets amplified some of it, adversarial actors exploited all of it, and disinformation trackers mapped the churn in real time. That's the new rhythm. Tragedy narratives, weaponization pressure campaign. It's not just about one host, it's about how fast the ground shifts under anyone who speaks during the first 72 hours. And yes, speed matters. The first version of a controversy often becomes the permanent version. Clips get edited, quotes lose their context, corrections don't travel. A joke designed to poke at hypocrisy transforms into a headline about what the host suggested, and suddenly sponsors are asking how many emails arrived overnight. In that environment, nuance dies. Intent is irrelevant. The truest thing is whichever thing the most people saw first. So where does that leave ABC? With a word that sounds decisive and indecisive at once, indefinitely. In TV speak, indefinite is a holding pattern. It buys time to measure outrage, cool the temperature, and poll the marketplace. It can also harden a line in the sand. If affiliates like Nexstar don't budge, if regulators keep signaling, if the audience becomes a referendum, networks have to decide whether to double down on the brand promise or reframe it. You can hear the internal debates already. Do we demand an apology and craft a return? Do we quietly sunset and claim it's about evolving the format? Do we wait for the next news cycle to bury this one? So what happens now? A BC can stage a return with clear rules and sharper editorial judgment, or Kimmel can pivot and build something that answers only to his audience, or both sides decide the relationship worked until it didn't, and that's the end. Either way, the rest of late night is watching, because nobody wants to be the next cautionary tale, and nobody wants to admit how easily they could be. Question for you: did ABC correct a mistake, cave to pressure, or protect a business that can't afford another firestorm? Let me know down in the comments below, and thanks for watching.